Hello. It's day 89 of the Liberator project, and today I'd like to welcome my friend James as a new subscriber to the channel. Although why he hasn't subscribed until now is a bit of a mystery. But I'm glad you could join us eventually. Now, 2 days ago, people were a bit put out by me because they actually thought I was going to cook my hedgehog. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. Tina's my pet, and she's far too skinny. She needs to be fattened up quite a lot before we can cook with her. So that's ridiculous. However, as compensation, what I plan to do today is I plan to cook a vegan dish, and I hope people appreciate that makes up for everything I've done. So, what have I been doing today? Well, the guy picked up the seats from the Mercedes, and I got paid for those a couple of days ago, so that's fantastic. And that they're out my life. That's another thing sold up, and it's moving on with the project. So, although it took longer than I expected, those parts have actually sold. And something else as a result today, I went to walk to the shops, and while walking to the shops, I came across a fireplace, which is exactly the right size for my lounge. Now, all the flats here are at the same rough dimensions, so someone's obviously got sick of this fireplace, but it looks really good. I've been wanting a fireplace for a long time, and fantastic. So I've got a free fireplace, and once we get onto the decorating phase in about 4 weeks' time, you'll see it then. I'll fit it up in the lounge. So that was really nice. Now, Monday night's karate night, but I haven't been, and the reason for that is I only got paid for the car on Sunday. I haven't been to the bank to sort out my direct debits and everything, and all my electronic banking is disabled because I was a victim of fraud, so I don't have any offline banking. I've got online banking. I've got to go into the branch, and I didn't do that today because the guy was picking the seats up and it was raining and I didn't do it. But hopefully I'll get that sorted out soon, and then I can start going karate again. Something I was going to show you yesterday, which I forgot about, was this is absolutely fantastic. This is a medal I got for coming third in a national competition, and I thought I'd lost it. I was really, upset that I'd lost my half marathon medals, and also my skiff karate competition. God, it's getting late, and this cheap wine is fantastic. We'll get onto that in a minute. Okay. Now, I've started cooking, so I've opened the wine already. Important first step. And today's wine is a wine rather disconcertingly called Workshop. This is 2 bottles for a tenner. So it's a little bit upmarket from the wine last time I cooked. And this does actually tell you the grapes that it's based off. So this is a Chardonnay, rather than just generally say it's wine. And I've also opted to serve this wine chilled, which is, is better than the tepid that I served the last wine. So let me describe the bouquet for you. Yes, it's quite startling, but it is refreshing. And it is, as I've indicated, it's got quite a plain label, and it's 12% alcohol. So I expect that, rather uncannily, the bottle I've chosen to open is not very good, but I reckon the second bottle will be much better. So we'll find out later on that. Okay, today I'm opting to cook cheese and onion cottage pie, which I'm going to make as a vegan dish. And, people have got with cooking, there's no right and wrong. It's about what your taste is and what you want to do. When you're cooking, you're free to add or subtract ingredients, and do what you want with it. You've got to eat it. In fact, you don't even have to eat it. If it's that bad, you can give up and go down the chippy. Right. Now, I was a vegetarian for 18 months, and because I've had allergy problems and the like. So I learned to cook pretty well, because otherwise vegetarian food is very, very bland. It becomes a bit of an uninteresting mush if you're not careful. And so I was vegetarian, but the trouble was that if you're a vegetarian and you're allergic to nuts, like I am, whenever you go into a restaurant or somewhere, they put nut oil in things. They think because you're a vegetarian you're not getting enough protein, and they put nuts, walnuts and everywhere, and you know, they can nearly kill me. So I decided that wasn't a very sensible move. And also a friend made me a bacon sandwich, and when I had it, it was like I'd grown new taste buds. It was fantastic after a year and a half of not eating meat. So, but anyway, I digress. Today we're going to do vegan cooking. So let's have a look what we're doing. We're going to do a selection of vegetables in a cheese sauce. Now obviously that's a bit of a problem for vegans, but we can probably get... Oh no, the central heating's kicked in now after 6 minutes. Excuse me. Tina, get out of there. Ah. Ah. Bad hedgehog. Okay, so right. What it is basically a selection of vegetables in a cheese sauce. Now, the first part, I can't cook this all and film it one-handed, but I'll do what I can, and then we'll stop and I'll do a part 2 or even a part 3 if it gets really bad. So we're going to have to do the first part of this. I have planned, because I've got everything sorted out in bowls, but God knows how this is going to work. Hang on, let's check this again. Oh yes. Right. So I've got carrots, peas, leeks, cheese, chives, butter, and I've got some potatoes. Now, there's what you want in your dish is you want basically there's 4 groups. You want to keep the textures and tastes separate, otherwise it all gets very bland and becomes very mush. So the 4 groups are, you get the sort of root vegetables, so that's potatoes, swede, turnips, parsnips, and then you get your leaves, which would be sort of cabbage, kale, spinach. I should never use kale because it's revolting stuff. Ah. Okay, ignoring kale. And then you've got your sort of bulbs, so that will be onions, leeks, you know, shallots, chives, those sort of flavours. And then you've got the things that actually give it texture. Now that would be things like sweet corn, peas, beans, you know, something that's a bit, it just breaks the dish up a bit. So they're the 4 groups you want to put in. The ratio really depends on what your tastes are, but typically most of the dish should be your leaves and your root vegetables, and then the other, you know, little harder lumps will they should be sort of spread throughout it to give it a more interesting taste. So they're your 4 groups, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind that all together in a cheese sauce. I'm going to make it into a cottage pie. So that's your cheese and onion layer, then it'll be a layer of carrots, which is something I like to do, layer of mashed potato, and then cheese and herbs. But, right, let's get on with things. I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I really do need a cameraman because I'm crap at this. Okay, what I've done is I've peeled my potatoes, and they're in spring water in a pan. And what you want to do is to, I bet Gordon Ramsay doesn't have this. Right, sprinkle of salt in that. And what you're going to do with the potatoes is well, there's 2 sections. You want chunks of potato for the main body of the dish, but also you want potatoes to form the mashed potato on top. So there's 2 stages to cooking. The first one is you just soften the potatoes, then you take out what you need from that, and then you carry on until they're very mushy, and then you make some mashed potato, which we'll go through later once they're cooked. This is going to be stage 2 of the project, or sorry, stage 2 of the cooking. Hang on. Oh God, that's better. All right. Oh. With the what I've got here on my potatoes is I've got a steamer, and what I want to do is I've got some carrots. I just want to soften them. All right, so when that's boiling, I just want to have those sat on top of it. And here, like that. And a little bit of steam going through those. And again, I don't want to cook them, I just want to soften them. Now, I've seen people cook where they just put everything into the pan and cook in the pan. Put in the dish. But I think what happens is then you don't get very nice textures. You can get hard and soft, you get mushy bits, you get hard bits. It's much better if you can sort of get everything in more uniform texture. Well, not uniform texture, uniformly cooked, and then just do 20 minutes in the oven to bake it through. The dish is going to be made in a dish like this. Definitely needs a lid, and it needs to be quite deep. And I have a lot of trouble when I'm cooking, that I find it very difficult to cook for less than about a dozen people. But I have over the years learnt to scale things down, and that we're just going to make this today, this size. Okay, so imagine they're steaming away, and something else you need to do is, I'll come back to this bit. Just talk among yourselves. Cheers. Right, we're going to make a cheese sauce. Now, this is the beef dripping that I use for a lot of things, which I made while I was doing my borscht the other day. I usually have beef dripping around. Now, it turns out that a lot of vegans don't actually eat beef dripping. So what I've done instead is you have to use a substitute, I'm afraid. And what I have here is I've got some nice full fat butter. Now, it also turns out that some vegans don't eat butter either. So what you can do is you can substitute things. Now, you know, every stage you're substituting is taking it away from the ideal dish, but it also, you know, it makes it a proper vegan dish. What you can use is ghee, and instead of just plain flour, you can use ghee, plain flour, and corn flour to form a sort of paste. So, but I'm actually going to make this as vegetarian, because after all, I've got to eat it for the next couple of days, and you know, vegan food is even this wonderfully cooked vegan food is not the most exciting. So I'm making this a vegetarian dish. So, okay, so all I put here is I put a knob of butter into a saucepan. Now, I know any bloke over 40 hears the phrase knob of butter, it's a bit of a concern. Don't worry. Right, so what I'm going to do is, under a lower heat than this, is I'm trying to rush it. I shouldn't rush it. We're not in a rush, are we? We can do this, and if I could edit, it wouldn't matter, but we can't. So anyway, I'm basically melting this down. Now, I've said this before. You have to use wooden tools, and it's like, I hate them as well. I really don't like using wooden tools, but sadly, if you use a metal good tools, you just ruin your pans. It's unfortunate with the technology we have these days. We need wooden spatulas in here. Okay, so first thing I'm doing is, I might turn it up a little bit more, is I'm melting the butter completely. Right. The next stage is going to be such a disaster trying to do it one-handed at speed. But if it is, you know, bear with me. I might do a jump cut and come back the next one and go, there we are, that's it, finished. Okay. Right, come on. You don't want to have the temperature too hot that will start burning it. You really just want to melt the butter. And while that's melting, I'll tell you what else I was going to do. You do the same thing, some butter or ghee or vegetable oil in a frying pan, and you fry your leeks. Now again, all you want to do is to soften them. You don't want to cook them, you don't want them brown, you just want to take the bite off them to sort of make them a little bit, soften them, and yes, just to sort of start them off. Because then everything, when it's sort of started cooking, you can put them into the final dish, and the textures are really nice and separate. And especially if you fry them, the flavour's a lot better. And I don't know if it seals them or whatever, but I prefer doing that. But that's going to have to be. I can't do 2 pans and this. Right, okay, so we've got butter. Right. Bear with me. What I'm doing now is I've got plain flour. Now, if you're doing this as a vegan dish, you will need to add corn flour as well, because you will need to thicken it. But as I'm using heavy fat things, it's not so much of a problem. Now, let's see if I can do this. Okay, that's roughly right. And this is like patting your head and rubbing your stomach, and it's not right. You want to spend a bit of time, turn the heat right down, so the butter's still melted, and you want to spend a bit of time stirring the flour in until you end up with something that looks a bit like Play-Doh, but you do want it to have a nice sort of uniform texture. Okay. It's still too runny. Hope you appreciate I'm not going to jump cut, I'm just doing this. Okay, right. Now the pan's moving. I'm not going to say join me later. No, we're going to do this now. So I'm just going to swap hands. And I can use my... Oh God, that's hot. Okay, let's show you what I'm trying to do. You see this? Now, that's a little bit, you see in there? That's still a little bit moist. We need something with a bit... Oh, I forgot to say, before you start, make sure everything is thoroughly cleaned and sterile, and make sure all your saucepans are completely removed and sterile from any hedgehog poo that may have accumulated in them. So, again, all your work surfaces, your hands, everything's clean and sterilised when you're cooking. That's really important. But you knew that already, didn't you? Okay. Right. So what we have here is... That's about right. That's roughly right. I'm going to turn the heat down because I'm talking. Okay. Now, again, vegan cooking, do the same thing, but you need, corn flour to make it a bit thicker. Now, I'm using extra full fat milk, and trust me, this really does make the difference on your cheese sauce. If you try and do this with semi-skinned, it's going to be awful. And if you're vegan, you have to make it with some milk substitute like rice or almond milk, and you've got no one to blame but yourself. Okay, so let's put a little, and what you do is just put a splash in like this, a tiny amount. I'm going to end up dropping this. We both know that. I might as well just drop it now. Okay, just add a little at a time. So look, that's all I've added is just the cream on the top. And here we go. Let's have a look what's in the saucepan. So, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Is I can't do it one-handed. I need a cameraman. Okay, I'm going to stir. Or whisk, no, just stir, fold in the fat into the milk and everything until it's a thick, uniform texture. And it's worth spending a lot of time on that, heating it very, very gently and stirring it all in so it's smooth. Now, once you've got that smooth texture, what you can do is you can add a lot more milk. Now, I'm probably going to use a pint or so, or 500 millilitres of milk in that. And if you've done it properly, if you've done this right, what will happen is you'll just end up with a you know, it just looks like a pan of milk. There won't be any lumps in it. And then, you know, at some point I'll show you how to do this, but I can just describe it. You gradually, stirring it all the time, you put the heat back up to full and you bring the milk to the boil. And what happens is all, you know, and you know, you can adjust the temperature as you're doing this until you end up with a very thick white sauce. Or if you're doing the vegan, you end up with a, you know, a white sauce. And what I'm going to do is I spoke for 20 minutes. I'm going to go away and do that, and I'll join you in part 2 and show you the next stage. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Goodbye.